All right, so trait theories of psychology are really what we use the most of in psychology nowadays. And this is what we're going to use for research most of the time when we are looking at kind of how can personality predict different things. So trait theories describe characteristics for the purpose of prediction. And a trait is a consistent, enduring way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. So something about you that is consistent across time, and it's kind of always there about you, and it's consistent. It's a consistent way of thinking about certain things, feeling about certain things, and the way we behave in certain situations. All right, so this really is what's going to make up our personality, right? Your personality is made up of a whole bunch of different traits, according to trait theory. And we all have these traits, and we all have some amount of these traits. So think of traits as being on a continuum, right? Let's say there's, 100 traits. We all have all 100. All human beings have every single one of these traits in some level. And everybody has their dial kind of set on a different level for each one of those traits, and that makes up your entire personality. Which is why no two personalities are going to be exactly the same, because everyone's dial on each one of the traits is going to be a little bit different. All right, so the first person to really study personality through traits was Gordon Allport. And he listed 200 traits that he said were kind of just related and came from our nervous system, right? Like our brain, spinal cord, nervous system. Now, maybe he's right. Maybe we have 200 traits. But the thing is that we're doing trait theory in order to be able to research it and use it for prediction purposes, which means we'd have to study these traits in people. And if I'm looking at people's enduring ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and I have to study 200 of these enduring thinking, feeling, and behaving traits, that would be at least 1,000 question survey, at least, at minimum, 5 questions per, to try and see what my level was on each one of these traits. I guarantee you nobody wants to sit down and take 1,000 question survey, right? We can barely get people to take a 10 question survey. So trying to get enough data to really look at these 200 traits is almost impossible. So along came Raymond Cattell, and he decided to reduce those traits and got them between 16 to 23, which is thankfully much more reasonable for studying personality. Now, the way that Cattell got that 200 down to 23 is he did like a factor analysis. So what that means is that he took all of the traits that Allport looked at, and he correlated them against each other. And he found which traits were related to each other, and then he grouped them together. He made kind of like a super trait out of them. So he's like, okay, these 15 traits all kind of get at introversion and extroversion. So we're just going to lump all those together and just call that extroversion. And these traits over here all kind of look at, if you're more passive or not. So we're just going to call these traits passivity. So we just kind of lumped them together, gathered them together into something that was much more manageable in terms of being able to do research. So when we look at what we use this for, one thing we use this for a lot is to help predict what career you might be good at. So we can use Cattell's inventory, and it kind of looks here. We take a whole bunch of personality questions, and then what they did is they went throughout the world pretty much, or at least throughout the United States, and they got people in all different fields to also take the inventory. And what they found was that people in specific career fields tend to have very similar personality traits. Nurses tend to have similar personality traits. Personal assistants have personality traits that are similar. You name it. Lawyers have the same personality traits. Like, it just seems that people that go into career fields, that choose a particular accountants, have particular career fields, all tend to have very similar personality traits. So if we know that, we can have any given person take the personality inventory, look at it and say, okay, according to your personality traits, this is the career that kind of best suits you. All right? People like you tend to go into this career. Now, it may not be the career you end up in, right? But it might help you. Now, if this sounds interesting to you, maybe you don't know really what you want to do. You're kind of, traveling through college, just like, maybe I'll figure it out. If you go to the Career Center, back when it's open and we're out of this crisis, The Career Center is in Founders Hall next to the cashier, and kind of across the hallway from the bookstore. You can go in there and they can give you this test, and they will get a report out. Actually, they'll give you a code for you to do it at home. And it'll give you a code, and you'll take it, and it'll say, okay, here we go. And it'll break down the careers by your degree level. So it'll say, okay, if you just have a high school diploma, here are the careers that are best suited to your personality. If you have an AA degree, here are the careers that are best suited. If you have a bachelor's degree, if you have a master's degree, and you can pick your degree level and get a whole bunch of different careers that are suited to your personality. And it'll tell you how much of a match you kind of make with that, right? So it's pretty cool. For example, when I took it, it told me back in the 1990s, the 1900s, the olden days. And it said you should be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, or a college professor. And I was like, well, all right, I guess I went right down that exact route now, didn't I? So if you look at what's going on here, right, we have airline pilots and writers who would think have very kind of different personality traits. And when we look at these 16 traits from Cattell, things like how reserved are you or how outgoing are you, right? Airline pilots tend to be more reserved, while writers tend to be more outgoing. Airline pilots tend to be more tough-minded, while writers tend to be more sensitive. Airplane pilots tend to be more relaxed, and writers tend to be more tense, which, I would think that maybe airplane pilots would be more tense, but turns out I'm wrong. So this is a map, a personality map for these two careers. So you would get something just like this that would map it out and say, here's who you match up best with. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story, because I know you guys miss my stories from class, but it's going to tie in kind of everything we've learned into my own little personal story, which is quite funny and silly. So background on my dad. My dad was raised very poor, not great area of town where he grew up. Awful childhood, really bad things going on. When he was in high school, he got really drunk. He got into a car. He ran the car into the mayor's house. Yes, the mayor's house, like into the house, like straight up, like the car was in the house. Got arrested, went in front of the judge. The judge said, you can either go to jail or you can go into the military. And my dad said, I'll go into the military, thank you very much. Not realizing, or maybe he did realize, but didn't realize what it meant, but it was during the Vietnam War, and so he went into the Navy, and was there for 4 years during the Vietnam War. Came out of the Navy saying, okay, well, now what do I do? Right? He was a weatherman, I think, in the Navy, and so that's not something that usually translates over once you get back. So he went to the unemployment office, and they gave him this inventory. And he got the results back, and it said, you should be, like, your personality best matches a mortician. And my dad said, no, thank you. What is my second best match? And they said, well, your second best match is being a photographer. Which is interesting, because it means that morticians and photographers have very similar personality traits. So my dad said, okay, I'll be a photographer. And he went off to become a photographer, and then he found out that photographers only make, like, $5 a week. And he's like, well, I can't live off that. So he went to job, and he found my mom. My mom's like, you need a real job, and so he became a cop, and he was a cop for 35 years, blah, blah, blah. They had me. All right, so fast forward. Now I'm in college, and I'm learning about psychology stuff, and I go out on a blind date with a boy who I'm just like head over heels for, and he had just gotten out of the Navy, and he wasn't really sure what he wanted to do with himself. And he had kind of a crappy life and a crappy kind of, stuff that happened to him in childhood, and he was kind of adrift. And I said, whoa, 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 guess what? I'm a psychology major, so I literally know everything about psychology, because that's what you think when you're a psychology major. And I said, there's this test you can take, and it'll test your personality and tell you what you should do. Maybe that'll help you figure out what to do. And I said, but, you have to have like a counselor do it. And he said, oh, my cousin is a counselor at UCLA. And I said, yes, road trip. So we go down to UCLA, and he goes in and takes the test and visits with his cousin, and I visit with some of my friends that were attending UCLA. And he comes out of the building, we meet back up again. He's got this crazy look on his face, and I'm just like, what's going on? And he's like, okay, what'd the test say? He's like, man, I don't think it works. And I said, why? And he said, well, it said I should be a mortician. And you guys, I think I might have like fallen on the ground as I screamed no up to the heavens, because I knew I was probably going to marry this guy, and then it hit me that I was going to marry my dad. And I said, damn you, Freud! No, Freud, no! Because Freud was right, because I did marry that guy, and he is my husband, and he's a lot like my dad, because we do end up marrying people who are like our opposite sex parents. But neither of them are morticians, by the way, so there's that. But they are very similar on a lot of their personality traits. So we do know that from Freudian theory, and from many other people who've studied this since then, that we tend to marry people that are similar to our opposite sex parents, and we go towards what's familiar to us, and personality traits of the people who raised us are familiar to us. And so, yes, I ended up marrying my dad. Weird. Damn it, Freud. So, it does hold up. I'm not happy about it. Alright, so, I don't want to talk about that. The biggest theory that we use for trait theory is what we call the Big Five personality theory. This kind of takes the Cattell traits and pushes them down to the five that are kind of the most consistent over time. So these 5 traits are the ones that we study the most, and they do tend to be the parts of our personality that really don't change at all as we move through life. Alright, so they're the most consistent of the traits. So you can use the acronym OCEAN to remember your Big Five, because it's openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism are our Big Five personality traits. And everyone, as you can see, is the flowers move back and forth. Everyone's somewhere on the continuum between, one end or the other of these 5 traits. All right, openness means that you are, open to trying new things. All right, so someone with a high openness score is a person who likes to, try new foods, go new places, right? It's something exciting. Someone says, "Oh, that new restaurant happened. Let's go do that." Like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." "Ooh, there's this new thing where you jump out of airplanes while riding a jet ski." Like, "Yeah, we're going to do that." Like, they're just, let's do it all. I'm going to try all these new things. That would be someone with a high openness score, right? On the other side of that, someone with a more closed score who would say, hey, a new place opened. You know what? I'd like to go to the place I normally go to, right? They like their routine. They like things to just kind of be very much like, being in order. That just makes them, that's kind of who they are. There's not a right or a wrong side to any of these. It's just who you are, right? And the majority of these tend to be very genetically based. Conscientiousness is, these are the people who, make sure I know when all my due dates are, my bills are paid on time, I'm going to leave the house 10 minutes early just to make sure that we get there, in case there's traffic, right? I'm very conscientious about my life. And the other side is the undirected people who are more like, due dates are suggestions. And based on your last couple of things you've turned into me, some of you feel this way as well. Alright, then they're just kind of like, it happens when it happens. We get there when we do, right? They don't have as much of that kind of, time-sensitive conscientiousness. Extroversion and introversion, right? You've all heard of this, right? "Oh, I'm an extrovert," or "I'm an introvert." Again, it's a scale. Everyone has some level of extroversion and introversion in them. And it's not so much what you like or what you don't like. Like, introverts hate people. It's not at all what it's about. It's about where you draw your power from, your energy from. Extroverts get energized being with other people, being out, right? So all of you extroverts who have had to be, quarantined in your home are probably feeling so drained and just like, "Oh my God, I need to get out of here. I need to be with people. I need to go and do something." Because that's where you get your energy. You get your energy by going to a club or going to a party or hanging out with your friends and being at the restaurant and, being around people is what gives you your energy. It's an extrovert. It pulls their energy. Introverts draw their energy from being in more solitude and being more solitary. So when introverts are in large groups of people and at parties and things, it actually starts to drain their energy out of them. So they can enjoy it for a little while, but over a period of time, they start to kind of start feeling kind of socially drained, and they need to go home and be like, okay, I need to have my alone time now. All right, I can make my energy come back up again, and I can go back out. All right, just like how extroverts, right, if they're home alone for too long or without being around people, that drains them. They need to go out and fill their energy back up by being with people. It's just a difference, right? It's not better or worse, just who you are. Agreeableness is, just being like, okay, like, hey, I'm an agreeable type person. Hey, we're all going to go for pizza. You know what? I wanted sushi, but pizza sounds all right. That's good. Right? We're going to go see this movie. Do you want to see this movie? Like, you know what? I thought maybe I'd do something else, but yeah, I guess the movie would be all right. Like, I'm just kind of an agreeable person. Everybody likes the agreeable person. They're like, hey, whatever. And then we have the disagreeable people kind of on the other end who are just like, no, I don't want to go see that stupid movie. It's stupid. Right? It doesn't make them a good or bad person. It just is who you are. You just aren't okay with just going along with what everyone else wants to do. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just who you are. All right. So neuroticism is emotional stability or instability, right? Which I don't really like saying instability. It's just a different way in which you respond to things. And a lot of this, again, is just kind of built into you genetically. So people with high neuroticism are the people who kind of they get upset and kind of go to level 10 really quickly, right? Like everything gets them really upset. People on the other side of the spectrum don't get as upset as easily, right? They kind of are able to stay calmer, stay more level-headed in situations. Again, you are this, you have some of this, you have some of it, you some one way, some the other way, right? No one is 100% one or 100% the other. But you all know people who, every little drama in their life is like the hugest, biggest deal, right? Because they just kind of, their energy and their emotions go all the way up to the highest level, like for everything. And then there's the people who, stay extremely calm or things. Like, you know what, it's not that big of a deal. We'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. All right. Now, this is very much linked to your temperament as a child. And there's a lot of research that shows that this is just, how you were born. And that people who are more neurotic have systems that release more cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and who have their response to their when stress happens, like your heart just starts beating faster, their breathing gets faster, like it's just an automatic response that kind of leads to more neurotic behaviors. So again, not a good or a bad, just kind of who you are.